Changemakers on Maryland's News Now, presented by LifeBridge Health. The future of healthcare is here on WBAL News Radio 1090.
The word segregation evokes images of the old South, Jim Crow, whites-only, soda fountains, and the like. But the government says even after the Civil Rights Act of the 1960s, the problem never really went away, especially when it came to housing. Now the federal government has announced long-awaited rules designed to promote the kinds of housing integration that remain an unfulfilled goal of the civil rights era, particularly in big cities. Chicago and Baltimore were used as examples of why the government is now requiring cities and towns all over the country to scrutinize their housing patterns for racial bias and to publicly report every 3 to 5 years the results. Communities will also have to set goals that will be tracked over time for how far they further reduce segregation. Joining us to talk about what sounds like a monumental undertaking is Professor Richard Barth, the Dean of the University of Maryland School of Social Work and the President of the American Academy of Social Work and Social Welfare. Good afternoon, Dr. Barth.
Good afternoon.
Have there been any improvements over the last 45 years, or are some cities still as segregated as ever?
There have been improvements where there has been a program, including Baltimore, called Moving to Opportunity, that has given people the chance to move away from very segregated, high-rise apartment complexes into communities of opportunity. But those have been fairly limited in scope, and so the overall picture has not changed nearly as much as people would hope.
The problem in many cases is that those communities generally don't want people that are perceived as outsiders who didn't work to get there.
Well, that has been the reaction certainly in some communities, but this program has actually served many individuals, and the impact on the communities has been quite modest. The young people especially who have had the opportunity to move into communities that had stronger education and employment sectors did very well. We now have a sample of them at 27 years old or so, and especially those who moved early on fit in well and achieved significantly.
This problem is typically written in black and white. Is it a black-white problem, or is it more complicated than that?
Certainly in Baltimore, it is largely a black-white problem. It's a opportunity problem, so it doesn't necessarily always turn out to be a black-white problem. There are certainly black people who are, and white people both, who are living in communities that do and don't have the kind of opportunities that we want everybody to have. But that's one of the issues that certainly is being raised, that this can't be the only approach to housing, that we would disperse people who are in public housing in order to move them into other communities, that it's basically an integration program. It is also the case that public housing and all of us need to work harder to make sure that all of our communities have more opportunity, that we're doing the work of placemaking in addition to the work of moving families to opportunity.
What's different about these rules than the rules that have been in effect for the last several decades?
These rules are going to be more aggressive about monitoring whether integration is really taking place, and especially whether it's economic integration. So the old rules, you could move but into another community that had a very high poor population or low-income population. Now the expectation is, and there'll be maps provided and information provided and monitoring required, that when people move using this Moving to Opportunity program, that they would move into communities that were not predominantly low income.
Professor Richard Barth, the Dean of the University of Maryland School of Social Work, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us on Maryland's News Now.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.